And now we're on Daf Lamed Vav Amid Beis. Iboilahu. The Gemara is suffering. Hatorem mishalo al shel chavero. Can I be mafresh trumos u'maishos on your behalf from my own payrolls? And if I can, then zachin li adam shalo b'fanav. I'm being mizakeh you with hafrasha, and it's not even costing you a dime because I'm doing it for my own payrolls. Sarach daito olo. So offhand, the suffix of the Gemara is not understood. Why does Gemara think that we need dato? Why not apply the universal principle of Zachar li Adam Shel B'fanav? The Gemara in Kiddushin derives this from the parasha of the Nesiim, who was Zocher in a chelik of Eretz Yisrael, a portion of the land on behalf of each one of the members of the Shevet. So you see that you can do a Zechiyah without das. But the Gemara says, although you're right, mi amrinan came into Schusu lo tzarech das, there's no need for a minu shlichus midaito because Zachar li Adam Shel B'fanav. Oh, Dilma, but what was the tzad to say that no, he cannot be mafresh without das, even though he's being mafresh from his own payrolls? It's because mitzvah delayed v'nichalei lemevdei. We have a principle in the Gemara Pesachim that nichalei leish lemeeved mitzvah b'mamono. The Gemara there is talking about the mitzvah b'dikas chametz. And I don't want you to go ahead and do the bedika on my behalf, because even though bedika is a bit of a hassle and a tirka, but nevertheless, it's nicha that I do the mitzvah myself. And therefore, in the case of Afrashas Truma, although there's money involved, the Truma is worth money, and I'm going to have to give it to the Kohen, but nevertheless, I don't want anyone to be mafresh on my behalf and steal the mitzvah from me. The Gemara says in Bava Kama that if somebody steals a mitzvah, he has to pay Azor Zahubim Kesef. So now we're left with this vacillation, this suffering. Toshma. We have a Mishnah back on Daf Lamed Hey Amid Beis here, Masechet Nedarim. A man was madir his friend Hanoah, Torem es Trumosov es Masosov l'daito. The madir could be mafresh truma and maser from the payrolls on behalf of the mudar if he has das. So the Gemara now tries to clarify exactly what the scenario was. Ilema min bal hakri al shel bal hakri. If you're going to tell me that the madir is being mafresh from the payrolls of the mudar on behalf of the mudar, then I'm going to ask you, what does it mean when it says in the Mishnah l'daito? L'daito demand. Whose das do we require? Ilema l'daito delay. If we're going to say that the word midaito means his das, that he being mafresh on behalf of the mudar has to have his own das. So it just means midaito means that he comes and he's mafresh from the Paris of Balasada onto the Balakri. Is man shavi shliach? Who appointed you as a shliach to be mafresh truma? You made your own decision. Midaitcha. We need a shlichus that's appointed by the balabayis, and that was true even in a case where the shliach offered to be mafresh from his own parents. How much more so if he's being mafresh from the parents of the balabayis? He has to be appointed as a shliach. So it cannot be that word lidaito means that he was a self-appointed shliach, Ella, but rather it has to be l'daito de balakri. Now wait a second. If it's l'daito shel balakri, that means the balakri appointed this madir as his shliach, and anything that the madir does as a shliach to fulfill his shlichus, his mission on behalf of the mudar, is a violation of the Isra Hanom, the Neder. He's being madir, mahana the balakri. Okay, so at this point, we take a pause and we calculate. And we come to the conclusion that it's impossible to learn that the Mishnah is talking about a case where the Madir was mafresh the peiros of the Mudar, because that can only work mitam shlichus. And then once you introduce shlichus, then how could he do this? It's a violation of the Nedarim. Elo, we have no choice. By process of elimination, Mishalo al shel balakri. He, the Madir, is offering his own peiros to be the truma and be matir the peiros of the balakri, who's the muda. Now we get to the word ledaito. Ledaito deman. Elem ledaito the balakri. Again, this is a kolshkin. If the balakri appointed him as a shliach and he's the madir, and the balakri is the mudar, then if in the case where the madir was using the peiros of the balakri, it's also because of a violation of no. How much more so if the madir is taking out his own money from his own pocket on behalf of the mudar, and he was appointed so. Elolav, we have no choice. But l'daiti denafshe, that he is a self-appointed shliach. It means he's applying the principle of Zachar Li'Adam Shalom B'fanav, even in a dvar mitzvah. U'mishalom Torem al shel chavero, i'amrid sorech das. If you're going to tell me that we need the okay and the permission of the balakri, then again you're back to square one. How can he be mahana him? He's a shliach. How come mahani him? Elav ain't sorech das. So you see that a person can be mafresh truma on behalf of someone else without his das, if he's being mafresh from his own payroll. So we're going to apply the principle of Zakin Li'Adam Shalom B'fana. Mora rejects Li'olam. I'm going to tell you that the Mishnah is talking about a case, Mishal Balakri al Balakri. And we said that if he's being mafresh from the peiros of the Balakri, he has to have an appointment. He must be appointed as a shliach midato. And then again, there would be an Isra Hanoah. The answer is, yes, he was appointed, but no, he wasn't appointed. And now we get to the ambiguous gray area that's not here and that's not there. Now, to explain the Gemara, we will point out that there are three different scenarios in which the Baal HaSada gives reshus for someone to be mafresh truma on his payros. And the Ran points out that there are different dinim in each of these three scenarios. Scenario number one, a man declares, Kol HaShomea Koli, whoever's hearing my voice, Yitro, he should be torei my payros. That's considered a minui shlichus. And that's based on a Mishnah in Gittin, that the Mishnah says that if a man is down in a bar and he proclaims, Kol Misha Shomea Koli, Yichtov we get, then whoever hears his voice is commissioned by virtue of Minui Shlichus to write the get on his behalf. And obviously, in such a case, if the Madir heard his voice, he would not be allowed to be mafresh on behalf of the Baal HaSada, who's the Mudar, because he's a shliach in the full sense, and he's being mahana him by being Mekayim the shlichus. Number two, a man declares Kol HaTorem Eino Mafsid. This might not even be valid for Hafrashas Truma. The Gemara says that if a man declares, okay, we're going to have to get into the sheet of Hanan here, I think. If a man declares, Kol Azones Ishti Eino Mafsid, anyone who supports my wife, I will reimburse him. The halacha is that he doesn't have to reimburse it. That's not considered shlichus. Now we get to the third case, which is our case. He declares kol harotza litrom yovav v'litrom. Says the Ran. On one hand, that's not called mini shlichus. Why? Because he just said kol harotza litrom yovav v'yitrom. On the other hand, it is a shlichus of some sort, and it's enough of a mini shlichus such that now the hafrosh will be valid. And therefore, in our case, where the mudar, the Baal Akri, declared kol harotza yovav v'yitrom, there's no real full-fledged shlichus, but there's enough to allow the hafrosha to be operative on behalf of the Baal HaSoda. Boy, minei Rabbi Yirmiyah mi Rabbi Zera Torah mishalo al shel chavero tovas hana shel mi. If I come along and I'm mafresh from my payros to pater up your payros, who has the right to choose the kohen that will receive the truma, which is called tovas hana? Mi amrin, should we say ilav peri dihak mi metak nekariyahu? So I was the one who offered my payros on your behalf. So it's my payros that are becoming truma. If not for my offer, my magnanimous offer, this would be tevel. So therefore I should have the right to take what was mine, and I was mafresh it and designate the kohen. Oh, Dilma, shall we say lav karidahu lo havin peri truma? If not for the fact that you own the field and these are your payros, there wouldn't be truma. So who has the tovas hana to choose it? Is the person whose payros were given and designated for the kohen as truma, or is the person who owns the field and from his field we were mafresh truma? Omalei, Omakra, the Torah says, this Rav Zera's response to Rav Yirmiyah, Eis kol tuos zaracha. Zaracha, it's got to be your zera, you're the violent. Vinasata, and you will give it to the Kohen. So the Nesina depends upon Zarecha, on the Baal Akri. He's the Baal Zera, and he gets the Tovas Hana of an Asaka. Eisvei, the Gemara asks from our Mishnah, Daf Lamed Hey, Torah mes Shumos ves Masosim L'Daito. We're talking about a case where the Madir was mafresh his own payros in order to be mitaking the payros of the Mudar. So we should prove from this that the mafresh has this chus nesina. If the way you formulated it, Rav Zera, the decision and the authority to determine who will receive the trumas in the hands of the Baal Akri, the Zaracha, then Hakamahanile, the mafresh, who's the madir, was mahana the mudar by giving him the ability, to say to the Kohen, you owe me one. This is my decision, and I've chosen you. Elashmami, tovas hana delay. We have to assume, therefore, that the one who will decide who gets the truma, which Kohen, is the one whose payros were used to be mafresh truma, meaning the Baal Hamadir. No, according to you, Rav Zera, you want to derive from the pasuk that Tovas Hana is exclusively in the hands of the Baal Akri. And the Gemara answers, Amri, lo. We're not talking about a case where the Madir was mafresh his own payros, but rather Mishal Baal Akri, Al Shal Baal Akri, Uladait Baal Akri. You'll ask me if it's the Daito Baal Akri, so how could he be mahana him? He's a shliach. The answer is Biomer, the old answer that we gave earlier, Kol harotza litrom, Yovav litrom, which is not a complete mini shliach. He gives a general reshus to anyone who wants to come to be mafresh, and he can be Torah. So therefore, it's not a shlichus, and the madir is not considered to be mahada the mudar. He's not being mekayim his shlichus. Toshma. The Gemara again wants to be poshet the suffix of Rabbi Yirmiyah, who gets the Tovas Hana. The Omer Rabbi Avo, Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Now, there are three different dinim. that Rabbi Avo said in the name Rabbi Avo. First of all, a person can be magdish an animal on behalf of someone else's chiyuv karban. And in such a case, if the animal lends itself to pigeon, for example, it becomes a balas mum, then the din is that who is doing the pigeon? Two possibilities. If the Baal Karban himself does the pigeon, then he has to add a chomish. However, if someone else does the pigeon, then there's no need to add a chomish. We had this already. Hamadish Mosif chomish. So the Magdish now, this is a little tricky here because the word Magdish here means the Bailim. So let's for the time being just cross out the word Magdish and put in the word Bailim. The Bailim is Mosif Chomish, which means that if he himself, the Bala Karban, was Podeh, the Karban, after it became a Balas Mum, he is obligated to add a Chomish. However, if someone else who is mafresh the Karban on his behalf, that person would be podeh the hegdish after it became a balmum, he doesn't add a chomish. That's number one. Number two, even though we said that who's considered a bailin as far as chomish is concerned, it's the bala karban, the miskaper, but nevertheless, as far as tmura is concerned, umiskaper osa tmura. One second. One second, I lost it for a second. What's the contrast here to Tamura? That was this Kaper. I'm gonna take a shot at it. I see there is a note here. I think what he's saying is the following: that in the first din of Rabbi Yochanan, when Reuven was magdish an animal on behalf of the Karban of Shimon, Reuven himself, after the animal becomes a Baal Mum, he could be podeh the animal. And again, as we said before, he doesn't add a chomish, but he has the right to be podeh the animal. Does he have the right to be oset tmura? And the answer is no. Miskaper oset tmura. Only Shimon, who will achieve kapara through this karban, he and only he could be oset tmura and say that harei zu tmura zu. Now we get to the third din of Rabbi Yochanan. Vatorem mishalo al she'eno shalo, tovas hano shalo. If Reuven is mafresh truma from his own peiros on Shimon's peiros, then he, Reuven, the Torem, gets the tovas hano. So now, what do we do with the pasuk of Reb Zera? The pasuk of Reb Zera indicated to us our echa. So the Ran, in order to answer this question, he sort of rearranges the pasuk, and you read it aser taser vinasata. That the one who is mafresh the maser, he's the vinasata, not the way we said it zar echa vinasata. Now, we're going to ask the following question. Why is it that in Tmura, only the Miskaper could make a Tmura? He says the following: Odam amafrish korban al chavero nefshav hamiskaper lebala korban v'hu amakri. So he has here a whole discussion in the Achronim about who's considered the bala korban. Is it the miskaper or the one who is magdish the korban? But from Halacha and Tmura, it would seem that the bala korban is not the magdish, but rather the miskaper. The Mishnah goes on to say that the Madir Melando, he can teach the Mudar Medrash Halachas Vagodas Avaloyel Benu Mikra. So Gemara asks, Mikra my time Aloyel Benu Mishum de Kamahani way. Is this considered a Hana because the Malamed, who's the Madir, waived his rights for compensation and wages for teaching Mikra? So Medrash Nami Kamahani way. After all, if he's not taking payment, then if he, the Madir, is teaching the Mudar Medrash, that's considered a Maisana by waiving his wages. Yesterday, I asked you a question. I still don't have an answer to the question. Why the Mishnah doesn't say, let the Mudar just take the money and be magdish it or throw it into the Yam HaMelech. Anyway, Omar Shmuel, b'mokum shenotlin schar al hamikra, v'yein notlin schar al hamidrash. Now here also I have a problem. I don't know why it's totally in makom. I mean, these are absolute dinim. You know, you're not allowed to take money for teaching Torah. I finally was Mekayim that din, by the way. I came to Efrat and I left the ELC. Anyway, so Shmuel says the following, that in these areas, you're allowed to take schar for teaching Mikra, but not for teaching Medrash. So you're allowed to teach Medrash because that's not considered Mahanehim. He's not waiving his rights for compensation because he has no rights for compensation. Why, Paske? Why does the Mishnah assume that you're allowed to take schar for teaching Mikra, but not for Medrash? I mean, maybe we should turn it upside down. We should say, no, we'll take schar for teaching Medrash, but not for teaching Mikra. And here we turn to the Aframet Zion. The Tana wants to teach us that even in those areas where the Malamdim are compensated with wages, that's only al hamikra. They're only permitted to teach and get paid for their teaching when it comes to mikra, when it comes to Tanakh. But al midrash lo shari lemishkal. But when you talk about Torah Shebal Peh, they're not allowed to take schar. And tomorrow we're going to darshan this from Moshe Rabbeinu. That'll be our discussion for tomorrow. So I'll take this opportunity to wish you a great day. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we have a slightly different schedule, and the Daf Yomi Shir will be at 9:45.